before you came in, I was like, I got to have an awkward conversation with Seth, right? Because he produces the show and he edits the videos. And the last 3 episodes have all been like, we had like hour discussions about like Elon Musk or about movies that this guy was in that made a movie. So we had all this.
Right.
And then another guy, it was like we were going back and forth about like the prison system, about like these in-depth conversations. And every clip for the last 3 weeks has been some version of a dick joke or a balls joke or something. And I'm like, can we do something? Because this show's a little bit higher standard than that. And then I'm over here for 5 minutes going like this.
Yeah, let me shrug the mic stand with my feet.
Literally the next episode, we don't say anything except talking about dick and balls and cap and butt.
Mr. Larry King.
Right.
Yeah. Well, dude, you had me on. I wasn't going to go into in-depth spiritual journey.
Like nobody.
Yeah, I'm the pickle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
what's middling like?
Yeah. So yeah, you're host and headliner.
Pretty much. I think half
You
of them.
know what middling was like. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like there was a little when you were the host. First of all, there was that divide a little bit locally.
Yeah.
Of Comedy Zone Comics and Idiot Box, right? So there was you ended up. Some of those guys crossed over a little bit. Jordan crossed over a little bit. Ben did a little, but mostly they were loyal there. And those were sort of the guys under your tutelage, like Chico Bean. Those guys were the guys that came up.
Yeah.
Through sort of
James Hodge, Ben Jones, Anthony Crawford.
I didn't even know about Hodge and Crawford.
Yeah. Jordan Fisher. Everybody calls him Chico. I know him as Anthony.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was like, I have a trouble with his name. I was like, I can't remember. He was on Wild and Out.
Still is.
Yeah.
And now he's in a commercial sitting in a big bowl of guacamole for some bet commercial.
Is that him?
Yeah. He's on, if you're looking at your TV screen, he's the one on the far left.
Yes, I remember I know of the people sitting in guacamole.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I did actually, just called him the other day.
Now, is that a low point in your career or a good thing? Like, it's a hard, like, I have to get in the guacamole.
Well, I've never done a national commercial, but, I've talked to John Reap about the kind of money he made doing those Hemi commercials.
That's true.
I will get in a bowl of guac. I'll get a bowl of semen for national commercial money.
Yes. Let me ask you this. Do you think Chico Bean, it costs more for them to hire Chico Bean or to make that much guacamole? Because avocados.
Probably Chico, dude.
Come on, really?
Yeah. Come on, man. How expensive are avocados?
Do you not buy avocados?
I do, but
to make that's a big enough tub of guacamole for somebody to get in.
Right.
That is a huge budget.
But now it literally could be like a plate, and they're just slid in, and they've got they might not have made a full bucket of guac. That would just seem like a waste.
That is a waste.
Put 3 humans and all that guac with no chips around.
Yeah, I'm sure that you're right. I'm sure they use
That's
some
why
sort
you
of.
don't make commercials, Tom.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'd be like, who's gonna make? All right, we need garlic.
Yeah. We need a shit ton of cherry tomatoes.
We just get some green dye with this and put mayonnaise in there.
Need some cilantro.
Yeah, you're right. It was just probably a small amount. Good props, people made it look like.
Yeah, like the illusion, Yeah. But
I would like to think that they made those actors get into the guacamole.
Now I feel like I'd almost like to flex to see whether or not I can get him on the phone right now and just ask him, was it like a full bowl of guacamole or was it,
text him and see.
Yeah, he never responds to a text. But
Tell him he needs to.
I'll try.
Tell him Earthquake responded to texts. That's how I introduced him to Earthquake. It was one of the nicest things I've ever done.
Don't even give context. Just say, hey, was it a whole bowl of guacamole?
So anyway, Chris was the guy there.
Yeah.
And those guys sort of, but there was hardly any guest sets ever, stuff like that. They had an open mic where they charged the comedians $104 a piece or whatever to perform, something like that. It
was everybody had to pay $5 to get in, and then you had to bring 5 people.
So I would just pay $20 when I came to town.
Usually,
I just
most of the time I put you on. Tom.
I know, I'm playing.
Yeah.
But I was explaining, like you're saying, what it feel like to middle.
Yeah.
You knew what middling felt like. That was one of the things I said he had to overcome a weird thing where he was like, you were the guy at that club. People were like, we just talked to 2 kids whose dad would bring them to go see you and they know your joke. It's like, you were like the local star people were there to see you more than they were there to see the headliner, right? And that's not being you're not being a bragger or anything by saying that. That's just the way it was.
Yeah, without not being a braggart, using the words that other headliners have used, is it was my show and the other comics were the guest of that show.
Right. So what he would run into would be middle acts coming in.
Yeah.
And he would just crush, first of all, and make it hard for the headliner. So he had to deal with you had to deal with, I'm talking about you like you're not here.
Right.
Right. You had to deal with that's a weird thing.
It is very weird.
Because there's a lot of comics that are like, first of all, you're loud, you're physical, you're a party comic, or you were at the time, you know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of things that comics can blame, like, that's why I suck tonight.
Right.
It's his fault because he's doing it this way.
There was a lot of that
Right.
went down. A lot of people that had animosity for the fact that both me and Paul were relatively new in the game, Paul being the owner of the Comedy Zone, that we didn't know that there was supposed to be a pecking order of a comedy show.
Right.
That the MC has their place. That's it. They do the 5 minutes and eat the chicken wings and drink the drinks, and there's the bathrooms. And then the middle act that does the 25 to 30 minutes, and then the headliner. And
But the truth of the matter is, especially in that's not, you guys stumbled across, that's not the best show. Like, when I came up watching at Uptown Comedy Corner in Atlanta with Earthquake, and Earthquake would host the show, and he was the best comic on the show most of the time.
Right.
Right? And so he would go up, host a little bit, bring up a feature. However the feature would do, they'd sort of figure out from there if they were going to bring in guest sets, or if the feature was going to do 10, and then Quake was going to do another 30, and then he had to balance how does he not bury the headliner, or should he be better than the headliner and then keep that, you know what I mean? And that was you always knew that you had, no matter what, you had a guy that could close the room, middle of the room, or host the room, and do them all. And
there were multiple weekends where I did just that.
Right. And so that's not a thing that comedy clubs do.
Yeah.
Right?
But Earthquake's one that could do it. And,
yes.
And I was told...
a lot of guys could do it if that was the format.
Leo DeFore. You remember Leo?
No.
Old school comic, man, up in Canada. But I think he's right there on like the border. I mean, he might be
that's
in
how
Detroit.
Canada does it.
Yeah. The MC is generally the most experienced person on the ticket. You have the strongest headliner as the MC, then you have a feature and another headliner.
Right.
That's how the clubs are done. And because then, like you said, you've got that built-in security blanket that if somebody sucks, then your host can go up and do 7 minutes and re-energize the room, and then turn it over to the headliner, who you hope will kill.
Right.
And if they don't, you cut them off 10 minutes early, send your vet back up there, and knock it out for 10 minutes.
Yes, that's a pretty solid. That works if you have that guy.
Yeah.
So you were that guy. So we would not when I say we, just comics would come to town, and getting back to you saying what's it like to middle. This guy, you'd go there to go middle, and the first guy's supposed to go up and do 10, 12 minutes, lay across the wire, set it up. You're the sweet spot in the middle. You go up and kill. Not this guy. This guy goes up. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got a great blah blah blah. And here's your feature. And then it's like the feature would go up, and then basically do the eat the bullet for his 20, 25, and then Chris would come back up and have the sweet spot every night, and then he would just crush, bury the middle. And then make it tough on the headline.
Well,
now everybody's mad at him.
Yeah. Well, we went to that about probably 5 years in. We went to where Paul actually told me, he goes, don't even take the mic out of the stand.
Right.
And he goes, just go up there, do the announcements, bring the feature up, and then you go up and do your time after the feature.
And that's totally, as a club owner or whatever, and for you, that's totally fair. Because that makes for, overall, it hurts the feelings of a lot of guys. The middles are usually hit and miss.
Right.
So, and they're coming through. They're you know what I mean? They're the guys that are probably the worst comic on the show.
At that time in that room,
room, at that time. And a lot of times they're not, but they're still.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Tosh came through there a couple times.
As a middle?
Yeah. Okay. I never saw Daniel headline up until he was.
And this room is
Daniel.
To me, this room was always particularly hard. Like, I would watch shows and nobody really killed there. I mean, I think a lot of guys that I would like. I remember going and seeing Joe Morrison there, and I was like, I always thought he was hilarious.
Joe was really funny,
and he would struggle. Like everybody would come off, and they'd be like, that was a good set. Like, everybody's like, oh, like it was just a hard
Joe
run.
hated me.
Okay,
he hated me. I respected him 100% because, like you said, I thought Joe always made me laugh.
Yeah, same.
And I did a bit one night, and I've probably done the joke 100 times. Who knows? And asked some country girl who's on a bachelorette party where her husband-to-be was. And I would say something to the effect of, well, if he's as country as you, he's at the strip club going, hey, you bitches take quarters.
Right.
Old joke. Anyhow, unbeknownst to me, Joe had some bit about giving a stripper a quarter. I had no clue that Joe had this. But I came off stage one night after doing that joke, and I thought me and Joe were going to throw hands. He goes, come with me. And we go outside, and he literally hits the back door of the Comedy Zone and takes the back door off the hinges.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, shit.
He's not even that big a guy, is he?
No, he's not, but he was so mad. But everybody's bigger than me.
That's true.
So I'm looking at him going, I'm going to let him get 2 or 3 steps out, so at least I've got a little wiggle room if he starts swinging. And he comes at me, and he's like, hey, Chris, what do I give the stripper? What do I give the stripper, Chris? What do I give the stripper? And I'm just looking at him like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And
he's saying that in his bit he ends up.
He thought I stole the joke from him. So
do you think you stole it, or that you should know he's getting ready to do that bit, and you doing your version makes his joke work less?
It could have been a combination of the two.
Right.
But there was a lot of people that accused me of thieving because, like, I would kill, but I might actually do the old stock line. Someone comes in late. What can I get you? Can I get you a watch?
Right.
And then suddenly the only reason why I'm killing is because I did that stock line
Plus, it ends up being, once people make that decision about you, like I was telling him, there has to be some people have to have excuses for how they're not doing well there.
Right.
So it's a lot of that goes to you too.
Yeah.
But also, you don't get the same leeway when you tell a crocodile hunter joke, even if you wrote that joke.
Correct.
Because it's not like, oh, he has a lot of stuff. They're like, see, there's every example of anything that you say that sort of touches on, which I think most comics have stuff that crosses over with stuff that other people.
Oh, absolutely.
And we all have the joke in our act that we've written that's like, oh, fuck, that's you realize later a lot of people write that joke. Especially now you can see on Facebook.
Yeah.
Everybody writes the same joke. So,
yeah, and I got bombarded with it.
So every time you did anything like that, boom.
Yeah. And, you're a real good friend. I would like to consider him a friend as well, even though we haven't hung in years. But Danny Bevins is one that came to my defense back in the day and was like, no, you're not paying attention to what's going on in Greensboro. Right. He's not thieving.
It's
he's
not easy to get
killing.
Danny Bevins to be on your side.
Yeah. Always liked Danny.
He's one of my best friends. I love him.
He's a great guy.
It's funny that comedian Andy Hendrickson was telling me one time, he's like, man, I was working with Danny and Myrtle, and he goes, I've always, you're doing the thing where you're hanging out and telling each other how much you like each other's act. And he's like, I've always respected you guys and your acts and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He goes, and I'm working with Danny, and so after the show, I'm trying to make conversation, and he's like, I did some jokes, like I wanted to know what he thought of my jokes,
Yeah.
He goes, so I asked Danny, I was like, Danny, I did my show. Like, do you have any advice for what I can do to be better and blah, 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 and Danny has no patience for that.
No.
And Danny's kind of drunk, and he goes, you got a lot of hack in your act.
Yeah.
And Andy's like, what? Like what? You know what I mean? He wants,
I see him going,
it's like, what?
All of it.
And Danny goes, that's basically what he said. He goes, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And he walks home.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
But now Danny is like, over the last few years, like he's sort of, he's sort of become a guy that wants to help the comedy.
Well, I see him mellowing out a little bit.
Yes.
He's moved away from the next.
Yeah, he is a little
You know
hard.
what? I'll give you a little bit longer of an audition.
Yeah, so he's a lot more, but he doesn't shy away from being. I never really did either. I have in the last probably 6-7 years, but he's he gets so mad at me. He always has. Simmons, if you turn your back on the fucking crowd one more time, next time it happens when I'm in the crowd, I'm throwing a beer at you.
Right.
And he's just like, he just hates the way I stare at the floor.
It's crazy how little nuances
around.
that a friend of ours will do will drive us crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's a young kid, you've probably met him, Hewlin.
Right.
Yeah, Hewlin, who's he hosts the Comedy Zone from time to time.
Yeah, he's working hard, man.
But he's got a bad habit of not listening to himself when he's on the mic. He's holding the mic too far up to his face, so it's overpowering, And so we did the 4 shows, 2 weekends ago, and every time I came off stage, and he was like, "What'd you think?" I was like, "Lower the mic." And then he would go up and he'd introduce me, and then when we got done with that show, he's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Lower the mic." And he was like, "Where do I need to hold the mic?" I was like, "Just go up, set it right here in your chest, then turn it up."
Really?
And I said, "Leave it right there."
Okay, because I end up getting down there, and I'm always getting, because I talk so low. I'm actually trying the opposite. I'm trying to get it up.
Yeah, that's where he's got it. He's got it up here, but it depends on the room. Like the Comedy Zone mic, for whatever reason, has always been a hot mic. I don't know.
I was going to say it's notoriously been one of my complaints about that.
Yeah,
you have one job.
Yeah.
A mic stand that works and sound.
Yeah.
Like, can we get that? Nope.
Nope.
Not doing that here.
Yeah. I had to explain to Andrew Dice Clay why we couldn't lower the lights on stage, and he was not happy about it. I was like, "We've got one light setting in this fucking club."
That's awesome.
Yeah. Dice is fun.
And the mic can only go so loud.
Yeah, well,
There's no monitor. There's no
monitor.
It's like, goddamn. And like that pit in the middle seems like, it's like a raised or whatever. Is it a pit or is it raised?
It's a raised pit, is what it is.
Right. It's like a raised pit, and the whole room just looks like magnificent for and then you get up and you're like, that block sound. That there's so many weird things in that room. The bar right there. Like I said, there's a lot of excuses for comics built into like why that room's hard. And
right.
it just is. It's just a little bit hard.
It's not set up the way any other comedy club. I mean, I guess we've seen,
Yeah.
But it's different. The bar being right there is, to me, kind of a weird distraction.
It's like right next to the stage.
Yeah, it's stage left. It's right there,
But it does set the theme of that's what's important. Like the comedy on stage that's fine. Whatever. We're here to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're here to get these people drunk.
It's
and get them
Greensboro,
next door
North
to the
Carolina,
club.
and we got a dance club. You can take your lady, spin her around the dance floor.
Yeah.
And then not only that, it's a really easy access to the highway.
Yes. And it's got undeniably probably the highest percentage of really beautiful women of any comedy club in the country.
I'd have to agree with that.
That over the year, like it's an odd number of like, wow, she's beautiful. Wow, she's beautiful. Like, that doesn't happen normally in real life. Yeah. And it's not like that walking around the rest of Greensboro.
It used to be really fantastic, and now, of course, I'm getting older, so my fans have aged with me.
Yeah, so, of course.
Well, she's got a new hip.
Same here. Look at that nice shiny hip.
Yeah. That's a nice looking cane.
I love the way I love the way her liver spots.
Yeah. Those sunspots, they go well with her eyes.
So yes, so you know what it's like to middle is what I'm saying.
I guess technically I do.
Yes.
Yeah, but I only did it on the road like it was less than a dozen times. It was like 10 times I actually featured, and then they had me headlining when I probably shouldn't have been headlining, but I couldn't.
Crazy story, huh? It's got your own way of doing that. You did it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I've yet to figure it out.
And you're still selling out when you go back.
Pretty much, yeah. It's this past weekend we sold 2 of the 4 shows out, and the other 2 were like, I don't know, 25, 30 seats a piece from a sellout. So it was pretty close. But the late shows in the last, I don't know, I don't want to say probably last 6 or 7 years have even been harder to sell than like Saturday night used to be both shows would sell out. No, it was
my
never
buddy Jamie
fun.
Lissow, right? He's sort of hit because of regular appearances on Gutfeld, where he's a good comic too. He's one of the best joke writers that I know in all my years.
Well, that's saying a lot because I've always had you up in the upper echelon of joke writers.
He's so it's just so crisp and quick at it. Anyway, he started to become a draw in a lot of markets, and so he's doing same thing. His people, they're starting to do 5 o'clock shows,
right?
5 o'clock and 7 o'clock shows, and because he found like some of the places where he wanted to set up and it's routing, they'd already have a big name headliner at that Improv or whatever it is.
Right.
So he's starting to do a couple theaters here and there and the comedy clubs too, but he found that he sells all of his tickets earlier. Like in the late shows are not his crowd. So like even when he does if he does good nights in Raleigh, he'll do the early show and the late shows he doesn't do,
Yeah.
So, but now he started to add earlier shows. So he's doing like maybe it's even a 4 and a 6. Like if he goes in and they have a regular show that night, that weekend. He'll do 2 shows, 4
Right.
to 6, and then they can have Tommy Davidson that night or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And he's saying those shows are selling out and are doing great.
Sounds
Yeah.
like you need to do some shows at the K&W cafeteria.
That's about where
Yeah.
I'm getting, man. And look, youngster, you watch your mouth. We just met.
Yes, because there's a time there. You're in the part of your career when you do Friday 2 shows. You're like, all right, I'll make it through this early one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The late show is my people, right? And then it stays that. You can you're looking forward to the late show. You're just getting through that early one, and then something happens where you realize, oh shit,
Yeah.
early shows are awesome.
Yeah,
These
they
late
are.
shows, this babysitting drunk shit.
It's
is
right
awful.
it's right at the point where when you walk into a restaurant, the first thing you ask is, "What's your soup?" At that point, that's when the late shows become an issue.
By the way, do you think ice cream trucks should convert themselves to soup trucks and drive around neighborhoods in the fall and winter?
I've never thought about that, but I don't think it would work.
You know?
No.
You don't think people would go out in the cul-de-sac and get some nice warm soup that comes around?
No, because then you got to bundle up. You got to put on shoes. You got to put on the earmuffs. You got to put on a hat and go out there and then wait for the guy to serve the soup. No.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't
What
start
songs
that.
would
Yeah,
they play?
yeah.
What songs would you play?
Yeah. Like ice cream's like that. Like what would the soup one
Let's
be?
say that's a carnival kind of music for the ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the theme to the Golden Girls.
Yeah, something on Hogan's Heroes.
Thank
Saying-
you for
saying young people don't
being
like
a
soup?
friend.
You think-
Yeah, but most young people don't think of soup the way, at least the way I think of soup. Soup is awesome.
Soup is awesome.
Yeah.
I love soup.
I want my soup, and I want a blanket.
I like making a crock pot of soup and then having it for a couple days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got it around the house. You got some fagoli or some
Zuppa Toscana. That's
Yeah,
my
I'm a
name on it.
sausage lentil guy, old school Italian chicken soup.
sausage lentil.
Yeah, that's my go-to right there.
What do I do for that? How do I?
Well, there's a lot going on there, but it's potatoes, it's carrots, it's
Whoa,
celery.
oh, it is.
Yeah, it's lentils, obviously Italian sausage, tomatoes, some chicken broth,
So it's
garlic.
It's chicken broth based and not beef broth based.
No, definitely chicken broth based. I rarely use beef broth, even if I'm doing like a beef style of soup.
I need to get this recipe.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I haven't made it in a while. I need to make it. I'll make you sometime.
So you went to a what did you do? You went to an escape room today?
Yeah, I didn't. I thought I was participating. My wife kind of wrote me in to be like a chaperone. My wife owns the dance studio, so our son is on the top dance team.
See, isn't that weird that it makes me laugh a little bit? Like when that's such a sexist thing to think. Like I think when you say my boy is a dancer, I immediately get a little. But Stuart's son does dance too.
What is really funny is there was a long time where I didn't even tell my male friends that my son danced.
Right.
And the reason is because I always had the image when I told them, I had the image from me, myself, and Irene. When Jim Carrey becomes Hank for the first time, and the heavyset guy comes up to him and goes, "Hey, did you hear? My son Billy got to school in the High School Musical." And Jim Carrey goes, "Well, I guess he likes the cock after all."
I don't remember.
Yeah. So every time I tell someone my son dances, I think my friend sitting apart from me is in his mind going, "Well, I guess he likes the cock after all."
Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. That made me like
Yeah.
I had a little like I started writing the joke about like the escape room was like it's a closet. And they all got out.
No, that's so great. That's so great.
How long-
Melanie
it took
will
him longer to
appreciate
get out of the
that.
clet than it did out of the
Yeah.
escape room. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But hey, look, I'll tell you.
But he's going to do great.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
No, I don't mean about the dancing.
Oh, yes.
I mean the girls. I mean if he
but
cares about
the
that.
problem is he's in a monogamous relationship right now, and I'm trying to explain to him, it's like, dude, do you even realize what kind of power you have? Yeah. You're 16, almost 17 years old. You're a handsome fella.
And you can dance.
And he can dance, man. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And, so the whole thing was just, him and like 10 other girls today. That was his world today. In this escape room with handcuffs at 16.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, dude, learn all you can while you're in there.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even feel comfortable saying these thoughts because it's 16. Because you're 16 and they're 16.
Well,
Yeah.
dude, I lost my virginity at 16.
Right.
And so, and
I think my
don't-
son did too, right around
And I
that.
don't feel like I've ever grown up past 16. So I've like always had this
So let
mentality.
me ask you, your son is 16.
My youngest, yes.
Okay. So when it comes to sex, like, do you has he started having sex? Do you know? And do you care one way or the other?
I do know. The answer is yes. And do I care one way or the other? The only thing I really, really care about is him not impregnating anybody.
Right.
And
my son asked me when my son asked my wife when we've talked about this before, but my son, when she was going through the process with him and talking about, like, I know you're having sex. This is a different kind of condoms than the one, and she was talking to him about not getting a girl pregnant, making sure, and he has to take that responsibility also. And there will be girls, because he's an athlete and he's blah, 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 that will be trying to get pregnant. I'm glad she told him that and not me.
Right.
It sounds sexist.
And I think it would probably come better from the mom than it does the dad, because at that age, the boys are kind of bucking the fact that they're a lot like their dad anyway. So any advice we give our sons at that age, a lot of time goes in one ear and out the other.
I was just thinking that earlier today about, because I worry about his baseball and some of the stuff he's doing with that. And I'm going to stop talking to him about it, because I'm giving him advice that he's not going to listen to anymore.
Right. Yeah. I try to tell my son to remain celibate until marriage. I mean, I really try to. And I truly believe in it. I think that's one of the reasons why we have as many divorces and the divorce rate is so high in the United States of America, is because of premarital sex.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You try out something else. If you've never had it before, and the person that you marry and you share that bed with for the first time, that's the only experience you have with it, it's going to be the best. It's going to be awesome. And, you don't have the feeling of what some other girl did to you or what some other guy did to you. Because no matter what, we're animalistic people, and we hook up with, this girl, and this girl used to, she used to tap my butthole just right, And then the girl I marry doesn't know how to tap butthole. Right. And the whole time you're going, the whole time it's like, damn, somewhere along the lines.
Tap butthole girls ruined it for you.
Yeah.
It ruined your whole marriage.
Butthole was in my vows, dude.
By the way, that's the clip we're going to play.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that, but that's what I'm saying. We compare. It's like I'm now married to a woman that doesn't know how to tap the butthole right. And so, after 20 years, it's like, all right, it's time to break out the diagrams and go like, hey, I've been patient for 20 years, but
I think I've stayed Facebook friends with this girl. Would you please contact her on Messenger?
Yeah.
So
there's also the argument to be made about post-nut clarity as well, as some of the kids say, like you're waiting for this thing, and then you wait for marriage, and then you have it for the first time, and then you're just like, oh, that was nice. Oh, wait, I may not love this person.
That is how...
I maybe just want to have sex with them.
That's a great point.
It is, but I truly believe you can fall in love with anybody.
That's true.
And you can stay in love with anybody if you both put in the work, but it does take both. But so that part right there, the human nature, our human nature is to hate and to love almost simultaneously. We hate what we hate, but we love what we love. And, even my ex-wife, I still love that girl. I can't really stand her as a person, but I still love that girl. And I tried so hard to stay with her, even when she kept doing me wrong, because...
I do know. Yes.
But...
Jacan says, that book I was reading when we were working together, he talks about, both create suffering, right? Being in love creates suffering. Being in fear or hate also creates suffering, and it's like buffers that you're kind of like bouncing back and forth between. And the idea is to throw them both away, right? So you stay sort of in the middle of that, and so you're not wrapped up. You're not moved and directed by your emotions, right?
Yeah, that would
and
be.
You can't really go through this. You can't really, when you have love, there will be an equal amount of suffering that comes along also.
That's
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I mean, but they do create one another. Is sort of the point.
That's. I'm going to have to ponder on that, because my initial thought is that when you love someone and you love them correctly, it would not create any anger or fear.
That's how I would think too. Right?
But it's the human nature of that expectations of what we expect. The women put I shouldn't say that.
people.
All the fairy tales say ladies they want this, so they have this expectation of Prince Charming, and when they realize they don't have Prince Charming, that's when resentment and stuff starts to build. So it's the expectations that create the anger and fear.
Yes, that's a Bhagavad Gita theme. Is the I'm probably saying that wrong, but
I have no idea what you're saying. I almost blessed you. I didn't know.
But it's the same. It's the same thing of like your expectations are what your connection to like what the results are going to be.
Right.
Is that is where they say causes the suffering and the problems.
Right.
Is the desire to continue.
Yeah.
This.
So the expectations, tapping the butthole.
Yeah.
And then not tapping the butthole. That creates fear and anger.
Can't you just ask her to tap the butthole?
Oh yeah, I could, man. This is so. I just took a random.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's an interesting argument to be made for saying per marriage. But in my own experience, like, I guess you're right. You could do it either way. But I have what you had. Like a lot of girls. As soon as I had sex with them, I realized, oh no, I don't really.
Right.
You
like
had
this
that
person.
post-nut clarity,
Right.
as they say,
Yeah.
Tom.
And there's an instant like guilt to that. Like, oh no, like not only did I trick myself, but I felt like I'd tricked her.
Right.
You would've done well
even
in the
though she
Tinder
probably
era, Tom.
what?
You would have done well in the Tinder era. It's like up front,
Yeah, well, there's times obviously they probably felt the same way. Like, oh no, that was horrible.
Sure.
Like, I made a mistake with that. You know what I mean? But
Post-Tom clarity.
yeah,
I was always selective though. I was always like I only had like 2 one-night stands in my life, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was similar in that it was a pretty low number.
Yeah, and then my total body count is really really low. Like I know everybody would, my body count's low, so
Yes.
my body count's like 13.
It's interesting, you know what I mean? Like in theory, like women are like, what's body count is sort of that's bullshit that you would ask. It's not important, blah blah blah. But yet, it's hard to say. Like, it's weird that a woman would be, like, say 13 would be like, ooh, like 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as a guy, you're like 13. You're both embarrassed by the same number.
Yeah.
For exactly opposite reasons.
Right. Yeah, like I was with 13 men. I feel so disgusting. I've only been with 13 women. I don't even know what I'm doing in there. Yeah.
My
You
son's
could
had
make
more
it
than
cool
13
and say
women.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
So Owen asked if he should get a vasectomy, is what the point was. He was like, could I get a vasectomy? And then he knows for sure that because there's no male options except for condoms, right?
Right.
So even that's not totally whatever. But, it's a
No.
pretty high percentage. But, yeah, that's just a weird thing for a kid to think, like, I'll get a vasectomy. So your son you've talked to him about it, and he's pretty.
He is now, supposedly, they have become abstinent again because they got so scared that
They were going to get pregnant.
yeah. And
does she not want to do any sort of birth control?
First off, a very, very religious family she comes from, and I think they were shocked to find out that this had happened. And so it's all a matter of whether or not the family's going to agree to.
That's
I'm
some
sorry.
crazy level of discipline. Like, how do you start having sex? It's.
I told him, I
gone.
said you have more than one hole option.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Especially religiously, you can tap the butthole.
See how it all circles back around.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's considered non. You can still be a virgin if
Yeah.
you're taking it in the keister.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's so.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's not. I don't.
But all I know,
That's another level.
all
up.
I know is like I told my son, it was like if you're tapping the butthole or you're tapping the mouth, you're not getting her pregnant.
Oh, the pregnancy part.
Yeah, that's really all I care about. Most of the STDs, whatever, you deal with them,
Right.
whatever. But I know where he's at right now. He's with a girl that hadn't been with anybody, so his chances of getting anything are really slim and none right now. But
Right.
I've pushed the condoms
Especially
on him
since
and
the
everything
parents
else.
figured out she was having sex. Now it's really
Right.
slim and none. I'm just saying, you're right. There are other options.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's hands. Some guys are into feet. I don't know what that's all about. I'm not letting a girl, rub her feet on my penis. That's just not happening.
Really?
Yeah. No, it's fucking feet, dude. No, I don't get me wrong. I don't mind feet, but I mean, keep the feet away.
Really?
Yeah.
In defense of feet, Tom, is that what you're?
I'm not saying that that's a thing that I'm into, like that, But
I say that's a strange place to draw the line.
But I do have some fond memories of like a girl, like whatever, she's up here, she does a little like that, just different ways to play with your
maybe it's just the
your dick and ball.
Maybe it's just the size dynamic that I wasn't packing a whole lot of heat. That
little feet
you got these feet up there, and it make just
okay, the comparison,
the hands, the hands can be so small, but the feet are always bigger than the hands. So it's like I've got a little penis, so you throw your feet up there, it's your big toes almost bigger around than my.
I dated a girl one time who had she wouldn't take her socks off because of her feet. She had like a big toe, and then all of her rest of her toes were baby feet, or baby toes. They never grew, so she wouldn't show up to me.
Right. She can make a lot of money online now.
Now I don't want to see. Now, believe me, I'm with you on that. I don't want baby toes wrapped around.
I don't want toes wrapped around it. I don't. There's so many other options. You're gonna do better. Why are you wasting time with your feet? Your hands are so much more equipped to do what I want. They give me the friction that I want.
What's funny is I was just before you came in, I was like, I got to have an awkward conversation with Seth, right? Because he produces the show and he edits the videos, and the last 3 episodes have all been like
dick jokes.
We had like hour discussions about like Elon Musk or about movies that this guy was in that made a movie. So we had all this,
right?
And then another guy, it was like we were going back and forth about like the prison system, like these in-depth conversations. And every clip for the last 3 weeks has been some version of a dick joke or a balls joke or something. And I'm like, can we do something? Because this show's a little bit higher standard than that. And then I'm over here for 5 minutes going like this.
Yeah, let me shrug the mic stand with my feet.
Literally the next episode, we don't say anything except talking about dick and balls and cap and butt.
Mr. Larry King.
Right.
Yeah. Well, dude, you had me on. I wasn't going to go into in-depth spiritual journey.
Well, hey, we talked about Aja Khan and the Bhagavad Gita. Come on.
I like Shaka Khan, man,
Yes, that's funny. Like Aja Khan.
Yeah, Aja Khan.
He's got a feel for you, Aja Khan. So...
by the way, that's a crazy transition, talking about jacking people off with their feet. And then you say, that reminds me, I had to make an awkward conversation with Seth earlier. Like,
well,
it sound like...
That's true. That
I was beating it under the table.
Well, I can't see what you're doing over there.
Why do you think I put the drape over there?
I'm just glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
So your son, right now, that's the thing. Like, what about your other sons? Because I just think about it with mine. Like, I remember when he first had like a girlfriend in like 8th grade, and some of the other parents would be like, "Are you okay with him having a girlfriend?" I'm like, "Yeah, they say they're boyfriend and girlfriend, but they're kids."
Yeah.
You just hold hands at
It's
lunch.
like,
That's
what
like
are they?
it.
Yes, I'm happy about that, because I felt like the quicker he starts to sort of have that with girls, where he makes connections with them, and this is like,
right,
that's going to be better for him. Like, especially I thought in high school, where he won't have that constant, like, how do I talk to him and blah blah blah, so I was happy.
Yeah. No, with my oldest sons, we really didn't have much of a conversation. Very similar, very similar to what I have. And Nathaniel's a little bit more in depth.
We talked about it way too soon, way too much, I think.
Yeah, I don't think with Nathaniel, I don't think we talked about it too soon or too much. I think it was the right time and the right amount. With my son Christopher, it was like, just use a condom, don't get her pregnant, and that was pretty much it. I mean, I was a much younger father too at that point. I mean, he rolled into 16, and I was in my 30s. I mean,
Yeah, I hadn't even had one yet then.
Yeah, so because Christopher was born. Let's see, Kayla was born when I was 21, 22, and then Christopher was born at like 23, 24. So yeah, I guess I was just knocking on.
So is that a weird position to be in? Is it where you're talking to your 19-year-old son and you're like, don't get a girl pregnant, it'll ruin your life, and they're like, what?
Yeah, that's a really hard. I didn't quite say it like that, but I was like,
But that's the general tone.
That is the general tone, and my approach was, it was more or less that I never used the words ruin your life. I would use, something along the lines of it will be more challenging to progress.
Right.
That was kind of the way I tried to approach it, was to where it wasn't such the negative connotation that, because my babies didn't ruin my life, but they certainly slowed down.
They changed path.
It changed the path completely.
Right.
Completely.
Same.
You know, because I didn't do comedy. You know, the first couple years they were born, I didn't even step foot on a stage. Even,
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I was selling cars, running pizza restaurants. I mean, just trying to feed them because so when, Christopher was like 18 months old. Kayla was like, 2.5 when my first wife left. And so for, 2 years after that, I was a single dad.
Did she just leave and that just took off and left you with kids?
Basically. Yeah, basically. She basically, had,
She was like, I want a fresh start. I'm going to start all over.
She actually said I wasn't ready to be a mother, and I certainly wasn't ready to be a wife. Those were the words that she used.
Right. Was she right?
Oh, she was 100% accurate. Right. Yeah. So I give her credit for knowing that, but, and she certainly wasn't ready to be a wife because, it's the old saying, she loves sex, just not with me. Hey.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you ready to be a husband and a father?
No, of course not.
Right, but that you don't get the choice to just walk away.
Yeah, I didn't get the choice. I wouldn't have taken that choice either way. I mean, that's just not the way I'm built. It just,
Did you have to talk her out of having an abortion?
No.
Okay.
No, we never.
Was she that not ready?
No, I know. I think when she got pregnant, thought she was ready to be a mother, and then when it happened, it was like, oh, they don't ever stop needing you.
Yes. You can't fathom that until it happens.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't. You don't. You think, whatever. These people, they let that baby control their life. Ours is just going to come. We're going to keep doing our same thing, and then our baby's going to be part of our life.
Yeah. How naive is that?
Oh, my God, dude. It's so dumb.
Yeah,
and then it's like that thing of I can't.
That sounds terrifying.
I can't go to a movie. I can't go to the grocery. I can't take a nap.
Yeah.
I saw a video of a dad
going to a restaurant with the baby seat and just hoping the baby stays quiet while you and your spouse have a meal.
Yes. And by the way, if they don't, get up and take them out of the restaurant,
oh my God.
Jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's
over.
not that hard.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. I hate it so bad for you because I know the situation you're in.
Yes.
But you got to go.
Yes. Yes. But I because I have a child, my sympathy for a crying baby on an airplane is always a little better than it used to be.
It's about 15 seconds more than it would be if I didn't have a child.
I think I'm all right. I actually start to feel, I'm to the point where there's the exceptions, but mostly I just feel like this empathy for the mother or the father, because I know
always
they
feel
do not
empathy
want,
for the child,
and the child too.
When I'm on the plane and the child won't shut up, it's because the parents didn't do the research enough to know how to handle baby on a damn plane.
There's only three things, right? They're tired, hungry,
or wet,
or ear infection.
Well, the ear popping. So as you're going down the runway, that's when you give them the bottle.
Okay.
And so the sucking keeps, that just like chewing gum for adults, keeps the ears from popping. So now once you're up in the air, you take the bottle out and they should be good. And then when you start descending again is when you generally start hearing a baby cry again on a plane. It's like, put the bottle in their mouth again.
Oh, yeah. Because sometimes when I'm descending, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to
making the faces.
I want to scream like a baby.
Yeah.
I want to be able, but I got to keep it inside. Just be like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want that. I want the ability to be able to yell like a baby. And be really I'm annoyed.
I would love to be that way all the time. Just when something's not going my way, just go. I
feel like I have done that. That's why my wife's leaving.
No, I've definitely done that with my wife. I want my sex now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think they should add the thing that you just said about babies, about how to deal with them. They should do that instead of the credit card pitch on the airlines.
Oh,
yeah, well, I personally think the baby crying pointers would do much more service than the actual safety demonstration.
I've never thought.
Yeah.
Are you going to do this as a bit?
Seatbelt?
I'm just, when I'm talking with you, I never know what's funny and what's not, man.
No, I think that's a funny premise. The funny premise to have them do the pitch.
Yeah.
For the baby. I think that's a thing it's more you than me though.
Right. I think we both could end up going in, a certain direction with it, but
don't you do some stuff about the plane where you're weren't we working on
We
something?
were working on something about the fact that they say something about, the captain has just turned off the fasten seatbelt sign, so you're free to move about the cabin. And I just thought that'd be a great time to get up and just run up and down the aisles. Hey, woo, woo, I'm free. But I've tried it like twice and it has not worked.
It hasn't worked,
no,
really?
And I find it so silly. I find it so much fun. But
That's
it's
so disappointing.
Yeah. The ones that I'm like almost crying, laughing over, and then I do it on stage and it doesn't work. It was funny that we did the shows at the Comedy Zone a couple weeks ago, and I'd never done this. I was like, listen, I have a whole bunch of ideas that I was hoping to write jokes for and try them out before I got here, but I didn't have a chance to do it. So, and I just want you to know, when you see a comic on stage, generally they've done that joke 100 to 150 times before it's presented in a big show like this. And so I did one of the jokes, and it just laid there. And I went, well, I guess I'm going to have to do that one another 149 more times.
That's right.
That's
right.
So, but it was fun. But a couple of them ended up working out, and now, 2 of the bits will end up being in the show somewhere.
Yeah.
But there was it was fun to do. I did like 10 minutes of that, just pulling premises off the sheet. And
so what do you feel about that? How do you feel about having a sheet on stage or a set list on stage or on the floor or one in your back pocket that you pull out and be like, let's try some jokes? How do you feel about it?
Well, first off, that was the first time I've ever done it on a show where everybody was paying to come see me.
Really?
Yeah.
The first time?
First time. Yeah. If they're paying to come see me, I need to know what I'm about to say.
Okay.
That's just me. But I thought it was kind of neat to try to teach the audience something about comedy that they might not know, which is why I did it.
Right.
Not to mention I only had so much new shit, so I wanted to have a buffer there to just play. But whatever a comic feels that they need to do, they need to do that. Set list on the floor, on the stool. I am personally not a huge fan of it, but whenever I write a new set, which doesn't happen very often, but when I do, I generally need the set list for maybe 6 months, and then after that, it's there.
Right.
I don't need the set list anymore. But someone like you who you bring jokes in and out all the time. So I can understand why you would need a set list, more than I would, because
I need it so much that I've similarly figured out a way to put it into the act almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, when I notice that I've gone to the list a couple times, I'll be like, oh, my memory. I have a bad memory. And then that's where I get into the memories.
Yeah.
It's like I use it as a performance tool almost.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, but sometimes I go on stage and I literally grab the mic and my mind goes blank.
That's the scariest
thing ever. And I know
ever.
the set I'm getting ready to do, and I have to look down and be like, what was I going to do? Like that I don't know what that is, but that's why I've always
paper,
had.
Maybe?
Huh?
Is that when you shake your paper like
Well,
that?
mostly I just leave it on the stool. It used to always
Yeah.
be in my back pocket, and then I would, if I didn't have it before I went, I'd be in a panic, and then I would never go to it anyway. But then other times it's like I gotta sort of pull it out and throw it on the stool and look down, because I'd always have 6 or 7 jokes that I wanted to work on that week, and so that sort of made me do that if I had the little list.
Yeah. I like watching you work at an open mic night, because you literally hold the list.
Yeah, and now I'm like, yes.
And it's fun to watch you do a joke that doesn't work and watch your reaction, because
because they always think they're gonna.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The confidence level is enormous, and you deliver it, and you just look at it, and it's like the wash that comes over your face, like, shit, that didn't work.
But that's what I was going to ask you about, when you jump up and run around like, we're free, and then when you do something that sort of physical and
it's so sad,
and then it doesn't work.
Sad.
That's a little bit extra painful than just like delivering a joke.
Yeah, delivering words.
Like you have
I put my body and soul into the punch.
Yeah, you have to believe it to be that physical. You know what I mean? And then it's like, that's the worst, when you really believe in something and then it doesn't work, and then you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You feel that much more exposed.
And not only that, because I rely on the physicality so much, that I feel like any joke I deliver that has physical activity in it is always going to work for me.
It's going to work. I'm going to make it work.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I think twice now I've done that joke, and twice it is laid there. And I've tried a little bit I upped the energy the second time.
Let me do it louder.
Yeah, let me do it louder and harder.
I'm going to do a hoolan on this
and it just fell harder, and much quieter,
I used to do that a lot too. Just get louder.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make it work.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a joke where you laid down and it didn't work, and then everybody, like, you had to
Get
stand
back up?
and everybody watched you just, and it's just silent in the room? You ever had one of those?
I've never done a lay down on the stage.
I'm asking for a friend.
Right, yeah. The best lay down joke I've ever seen, though, is John Floyd's, where he talks about he used to work at a bank and he used to pray every day that somebody would come in and rob them. And he goes, because you know what the first thing they tell you to do is lay on the ground. Yeah, and he'd be laid down on the ground and be like, oh, thank God, I was so tired. It was and he would lay there and just, he'd do another 5 minutes after he'd finished with the bank joke, just laying there.
Laying there on the ground?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's funny. I don't think I've done something to that extent, but I do sell jokes. I don't know the joke specifically, but I remember laughing with some comics about like that exact thing, like that level of excitement and certainty that it's going to work because it's really funny to me.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't. And there's just the level of disappointment is
the break of our ego, because we've been doing this for so long. You think every time I write a joke that makes me laugh, it's going to work on stage. That's what that's where I'm at now.
No matter how many times that fails, I still think that. But there's a lot of times where I'll get up where I'll have my list written out, like the joke, and then I look at it, and somehow I get the clarity immediately of like, oh, there's not a joke there, so I don't tell it.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at the list like, why didn't I tell that joke? And I will feel it is a joke until I'm on stage and I have to tell it, and I'm like, there's nothing there.
It's so funny that you said that, because my list that I brought on stage a couple of weeks ago had like 10 things on it. And all of them were winners in my mind when they went on there.
Right, or at least worth trying.
When I was on stage and I opened it up, the first two I looked at, I went, nope.
It's weird how you don't know it's not funny before you put it on the list, because you don't put it on the list thinking it's not workable.
Right.
And then somehow you just know,
but
I can't tell that joke.
Spider sense that we have about being on stage, I guess it heightens the comedy spider sense, I guess, that we're able to see through all of it at that moment. But when we're sitting in the hotel or sitting in our
let me see if I have a current like list of new jokes where it's like I'll start putting marks next to them as I do them, and then I realize over time like, oh, I never even tried this joke, and all the other ones got like 5 or 6 marks next to it.
Right. I really wonder how many different notebooks you have. You've got to have 1,000 notebooks at this point.
I do about like, I don't know, 2 of these a year or something. So.
Do you think that's an anxiety thing?
I carry it around with me, you mean?
You are. What drives you to write at that extent? Because since I've known you, you've been one of the most hardest working people when it comes to writing jokes. And I've always thought to be honest, I get too much credit for how much I write, because I don't really feel like I write as much as you. I think I write as much as everybody. Like anything I say that's funny, or I think is funny, I write down. Or most of this book is filled with just like ideas or a quote I read when I was reading, or like, oh, I want to, this one just says midlife crisis. And it's like I just write down a phrase, and then it's like I'll try to write around that a little bit. But mostly this book ends up being, although this one it's. Now you just said midlife crisis, and it made me think it's like, you and I both are, past our midlife. Yeah. So what kind of crisis are we having now? I had a midwife crisis. Yeah, a midwife crisis. Yeah, she's really bad at delivering my baby. Everything was breached.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a pun,
Everything
though,
was breached.
Yeah.
It's funny we're talking about that. I was in a conversation with my wife. I already pitched them this. The idea that we, like guys that say like we're pregnant. I saw somebody do something about that recently. Was that you? Maybe I started trying it but it's like we are pregnant. No, we are not pregnant. Like, you know what there isn't? You know what the
It's Bill Burr. I believe it's Bill Burr.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
I
course.
think he's doing something on that. I think I just recently, I know I just recently saw someone doing something about.
But the basic sort of punch area is going to be some version of like the what's it called when the baby dies in childbirth?
Stillborn,
or the mother dies in childbirth. It's like,
I don't know. Almost went dark as hell with that.
what were you going to say?
Like winter chicken dinner. Because I've always said this: when a man goes into a hospital with his pregnant wife, he thinks he's going to leave the hospital with one brand new human, but he's not. He's going to leave that hospital with two brand new humans.
That's so true.
Because the woman that goes in there is not the same woman that comes out of that hospital.
Did we talk about this?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, you're right. It's so true. And I saw it in a television show where like a lady was laying there with her sister, a girl was laying there with her sister after she had a baby. And she's like, "You're a different human now.
Yeah.
Before you were a woman, now you're still a woman, but now you're a mother.
You're a mother.
And that's a different human.
That's a whole nother ballgame right there.
And men don't know that. Like we don't think
Nobody
about that
tells
before.
us.
That's right. They need a book.
Yeah,
Like,
nobody-
What to expect that you weren't expecting, like a guide to a husband's guide to his new wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Because-
chapters that are like, why is my less loved than the dog now?
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
the baby book is real easy to follow.
Yes.
If you just follow that book. But I think even with a book.
Poop screen. What does that mean? You can fucking look it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
My baby's crying. What can it be? It's these three things. You know what I mean? Or like this rash, whatever those things are that happen over and over. There's a thing for.
Yeah.
But there's not a thing that helps explain to men and women like who now they're married to.
Yeah. It's not the person you married at all. Like every once in a while you see glimpses of them. Like they had, one too many glasses of champagne.
Yeah.
You see that glimpse of that girl or that woman that you fell in love with. But for the most part, that mother, Borg mentality that's taken over their brain changes everything.
So what? Yeah. So what do you got to do is your love have to be so strong from the woman that you were married, that you fell in love with and married, have to be so strong that it carries you through? Like, or do you have to fall in love with that?
I
woman?
think I would imagine it's probably different for all men of how they handle that and deal with it. I think it's a matter of leaning on the vows that you made for the one that's really big in there is for better or for worse.
Right.
That's the big one, because more than likely it's probably going to be worse. It's there's good times and everything, but so I think that plays into it. For me,
That's why they call it the honeymoon, right? That's right. After that, it's the honeymoon phase, and then it's the marriage.
yeah,
Yeah, we were always on the road, or I was always on the road. 2-3 weeks at a time. Mostly it'd be 2. Then I'd
Yeah.
come home or whatever. But then I realized, I'm married to a single mom,
oh right, yeah,
because I come in the house and I'm in their house now. You know what I mean? I'm the outsider a little bit.
yeah. That's
There
exactly.
is a lot of daddy's home and blah blah blah. It's good to have you around. You know what I mean? But they have a whole life that's functioning and has to function without me.
Yeah. My wife says that to me all the time, and it's taking me a while. But
Yeah, but I never dated a single mom before, and now I'm married to one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that's a reason I didn't date single mothers.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a pain in the ass.
Well,
Yeah.
or I'm not a good enough, whatever that is,
Yeah.
It's interesting, like all the stuff that I wonder if I would have listened back then. Obviously, I didn't. There was people out there probably saying, this is what you got to do. But it didn't occur to me to do that there was going to be any real, like when people would say marriage is work. Do you understand that? Or do you think,
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand it now. At first I was like, it'll be easy. Blah, blah, blah. But like, I think a lot of the work a majority of it, from what I'm noticing, is just communication.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the hardest part. Like, as soon as you say something and...
And the work
you
has to
address
mostly be
stuff.
on
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah, it's like on you too.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I have to change as a person to adapt to this, whatever, and like a lot of it is you.
Yes.
So
Almost all.
Yeah. The communication is absolutely and I mean, blunt, honesty communication. You've married this person. You guys have already, yeah, man,
That's how I got her. I don't know if that's how you keep her.
I don't know.
Like, I remember when
I
I'm-
think
yeah,
so.
you gotta be, yeah.
I remember when I met her. I met my wife, and then I went to go I went to stop in Gainesville on my way back up from where I was coming, and I knew she was a radio disc jockey. and I knew she was an afternoon disc jockey, so I started listening to the radio stations until I found a female voice, and then I looked that up and then called in and blah, blah, blah. And so and then and I'd literally remember, like, I'm going to go meet her for lunch after a shift or whatever, and I got on my knees and made a commitment to myself and prayed that I would just be totally myself and be honest, and I was to a fault on, like, anytime I felt weird, I brought up, and it worked. You know what I mean? That's just how she ended up being the one, So I give credit to that sort of honesty thing. But sometimes, like you say, being blunt and sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut and just know that most of the time you're reacting emotionally, or I'm reacting emotionally, and it's almost always.
Well,
if I would wait a day, I wouldn't say that.
Well, the blunt honesty shouldn't come during the argument. Oh, yeah. The communication with the honesty should happen before you reach the argument.
Somehow everything with me is an argument. Like, not really an argument, but like I'm a contrarian, so it's hard to get away with. Like, we're sitting with people, and my wife's like, we were at a thing yesterday, and there was thousands of bunnies, and I'm like, there wasn't thousands of bunnies. There was a lot of bunnies, but there wasn't thousands. Why would you say that?
Right.
She's like, it's just an expression, and I'm like, that's a lie. What do you like?
It's also picking your battles.
That's a pick your battles kind of moment.
Yeah, well,
what I'm talking
and then
about
I realize,
is like
okay, I'm being, but somehow my OCD, I get stuck. I get on the little, and I like to be like, if she's bitching about her mom, and I'm like, well, maybe think about what you can do. Like, that's maybe good advice.
Yeah,
but terrible to say.
No, so it circles back to what you said. There are times where you just need to shut up, but like
that's a lot like you. You do that a lot to me. You're a lot like your mom. Those kind of things.
Right.
You keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
You never
well, I'm noticing more and more how much my wife is like her mother.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is one of the things I've tried to explain to my boys is like, look, man, whatever girl you're dating, you need to put it in your mind. Could you fuck and hang out forever with their mother? Go hang out for like a night, just you and her mom. Can you hang out with that? If you can do that, that's what you're going to be married to.
Worst case scenario. I think maybe. I would say my wife has a lot of characteristics of her mom, but she's not like her.
Well, 10 years from now, it's like a very slow werewolf transition that takes 25 years.
I'm out now. Then I'm out. Yes, it's a good thing we're getting off. It's a good thing we're pulling this train over. Then, no, thank you. Her mom is literally one of the most negative human beings. Like I think of her mom as like most people see a glass as either half empty or half full.
Yeah, and
she sees it as half empty, and someone's gonna knock that over, the glass is going to break, the water's going to be everywhere, I'm going to cut myself on the glass. Like that level of negativity. You know what I mean?
And I wonder if that comes with age. I mean, how old is her mother? She got to be in her early 70s?
Early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah. See, I think the older we get, we're going to be complaining more.
Oh, I'm already.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm not a complainer, am I?
But, yeah, man, I do think the open communication is, like when you got certain things that the idea is not let things build up to a resentment. You've got to talk about the shit before it starts festering in your body to where it's becoming a resentment that you're not going to be able to forgive her for it. Because then you start getting mad at yourself because you didn't point it out to them because you're trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, no, we committed to a lifetime together.
And you just grow apart that way.
That's what happened. That's what happened with, to be honest, with me and Serena. Like, and then she's like, I'm like, what is it? She's like, it's a stack. A stack of little things. Like a stack. It's basically a stack of resentments or a stack of shitty things I've done that she hasn't forgiven along the way, and then that's too much.
Yeah, and it becomes too much to forgive. Luckily, I have trouble maintaining information in my head anyway. So I forget half the stuff.
I don't know. I don't know if that's a guy thing, because like, I could be mad for 3 weeks at her. If she came over and put her arm around me and gave me a kiss on the side cheek or whatever, and was like, whatever, nibbled on my ear a little bit, it's like, all of that's gone.
Yeah. Generally for me, this,
huh? Yeah, she tapped the
butthole, it's over. Yeah. But like, generally I tell my wife, like sometimes I come home, from the road, and of course she's had a busy week, so I have no idea, but I come home and, let's say there's dishes, in the sink, and the dishwasher needs to be emptied as well. And I'm walking in from, one of our, 14-hour travel days, and I walk in and I see that, and I'm like, what the is this,
Yeah.
And she doesn't understand that as soon as I go, what the is this? Why is this here? I'm now okay with it because I've gotten it out, Now it's like, okay, fine, now I'm going to clean it, and then I'll be fine. But, sometimes she takes it so personally. It's like, just let me holler for a minute. Let me growl.
Yeah.
And then it'll be over.
Maybe you should take that outside with the dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, probably.
Save yourself on that. Because like you said, you end up doing it anyway. And then she's instantly going to be like.
She takes it personally.
Of course she does. Yeah. I instantly would be like, he's fucking calling me lazy right now. And he doesn't realize I've been teaching class and running this household and getting this kid to there. Like, I don't even have time.
Yeah.
I made this meal for somebody else.
Right.
Like, fuck him.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I don't have to worry about that. I think she's only made one meal for me in 24 years. So.
Hilarious. So I have a couple that I never tried yet. I haven't tried the gentle parenting thing that's on here. I have one about pocketing a lighter that I know isn't funny, but it's on my list.
There's something about kleptomania.
Huh?
Is that the one about the cursed lighters? It was I don't want the white lighter.
Yeah, it's like I never really wrote a thing on that made it. It's like we wrote around it a little bit. Like
that did really well that night, but I think whenever some people didn't get it, it's because I didn't know that white lighters were bad luck. I don't know how many people.
I don't know which lighters are bad luck, but I think that they just get made up. Like which light do you like that pocketing the lighter thing where it's like somebody you know that's not your lighter. You're a light you accidentally put my lighter in your pocket? Come on.
There have been times because I always have a lighter on me.
Yeah, right.
Because I smoke, so I always have a lighter on me. So there have been times where I've, just out of habit, I light my cigarette and the lighter goes in my pocket.
Right.
But,
Do you ever, how often do you lose your lighter?
Oh, and I think it's from somebody grabbing my lighter and sticking it in their pocket. I think is what happens. But
accidentally, right?
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But
you don't do that with anything else. It's like, I accidentally stole my buddy's car. I'm so used to driving.
Yes, right. Yes. We were joking about it's like you do that with a baby. Like, just like, oh, I have a baby too. I thought it was my baby. That one's not even the same color.
Yeah.
That's one of those unlucky white ones.
Oh, that's so funny.
Is it something like that? Is that kind of was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hurricane names. I think that
They should be naming hurricane names over like things that we need to learn, like science that we need to learn. Like hurricane climate change is caused by burning fossil fuels is going to take out the coast of South Carolina. Like climate change is not a myth. Is getting ready to hit the east coast of Florida, whatever.
Right.
But again, it's like that's one of the ones I'd never have tried.
Yeah, that one's going to take a little bit of work.
Yeah. I saw a lady on Shark Tank. She said the quick flash of the commercial was, I will work like a lion. Bet on me. Like, bitch, lions sleep 18 hours a day. I'm out.
And they fuck for 27 seconds.
Yes.
they don't even do the work.
So, but yeah, I have. It's weird. Like I'll have a list. Like I want to work on these, and then a third of it is stuff I look at.
I now wish I'd have grabbed. Of course, I didn't know because I was already driving into town when I called you this morning. But I wish I'd have known we were going to do this. I would have actually probably brought my list of the stupid stuff that.
So I know you want to smoke a cigarette. Probably get going. Right?
I'm definitely about ready to smoke a cigarette.
Wiles, we work together. We haven't worked together in years. I don't even know that I've worked at his club when he was working at the Comedy Zone, but we have not worked a lot together.
Right.
Where we're like on the road. So and I'm working these ships, and he's been on the ships forever. He's the king of the ships.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't worked with him yet. And then I'm over in Europe, in Greece. Boom.
Yeah.
You run into him in Greece?
Yes,
Wow,
he's on my ship with me.
Little
doing
Mamma Mia
shows.
situation.
Huh?
Little Mamma Mia situation. Right?
Yeah. And a lot of times I wouldn't get off the ship, but he's one of these guys. Like, we're here, let's do it. And then he talks to me. But the coolest part was working on comedy, like just hanging out
after the shows.
Yeah, and then
That's cool.
He's a smoker, so he likes to hang out in the smoking section. So it's like, okay, we'll go hang out. We'll go get a coffee at the buffet. And now I realize I think I'm going to start hanging out in smoking sections with or without people I know, just because there's a dynamic in them of people having conversations
Yeah.
with other people and not
making it about anything particular. Sometimes it is, and you just kind of dance around it. But there's
a camaraderie.
There's just a level of sort of, they obviously don't give a fuck about themselves. so there's an attitude to smokers that is, it's sort of fun to sort of be around that. There's a weird relaxation that happens where everybody's hanging out and they kind of have to be there. So they've learned to dialogue with one another and strangers.
Oh yeah.
And there's just a flow to conversation
also,
that sort of happens.
Been looking forward to that smoke break, so it's like, oh, finally. So everybody's in a better mood too.
Yeah,
so.
it's an interesting. So I after we worked together, I was up the next week. I was on another ship, and so I went up to the smoker section. I sort of was chilling out there watching the stars, and then it's like you just end up in some conversations with people.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
We would hang out and we'd try to work on comedy or like tag jokes from the shows, and that to me is what makes comedy the most fun.
That's what makes ship life tolerable.
But you don't work with people like that every week.
No. So it's kind of like, you know, I don't know. When that happens, I don't know if you're a golfer at all, but let's say you go out and you're having the crappiest round ever, but on the 18th hole, you birdie it.
Right.
Well, the first 17 holes, you're thinking, I'm never playing this game again. And then you birdie that 18th hole, and you're like, I'm coming back next week.
Yes.
So that's what it's like when you're with a couple of fellas that you love and respect, like what we had with me, you, and PJ Walsh. And it's like making the birdie on the 18th hole, going, okay, so I can do 7 more gigs now without that kind of camaraderie, because eventually I'm going to birdie again. I'm going to get that.
That's what made the road fun too.
Like
going to and staying in condos or in, you know, even if it was in a hotel and being in the green room of the con, like not every week, but enough weeks you work with people that like you watch and they're like, hey, I got a tag for you on that thing. That's really funny. Or you go do something and you write a joke while you're hanging out, or it leads to better comedy. Like just to be around people that find you funny, and then you also can give them idea. It's more rare than it should be, you know, but it's cool when it happens.
There's a lot of comics out there that don't even create anymore. They've got their shows, and that's what they do on the ships. So you don't even see them being able to do what the three of us were able to do while we're in Europe.
By the way, I'm working a line now, Princess. They're starting to do like a comedy club instead of shows in the theaters.
Right.
It's too easy.
Why are you whispering?
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to know.
Right. Yeah. But we're being recorded.
Yeah.
You know. That's what built the Punchliner on the cruise ships.
But they're doing because I literally sat with the entertainment director on the ship when I got on, and he said, because normally you do a 45-minute set twice in a night, and they want you to repeat it in the theater, and then 2 nights later you do a different set that's a 45, family friendly in the theater, blah blah blah. And he said, we found that almost no comics had a good second 45. And it was really hurting the overall shows. They sometimes wouldn't even have a really solid 45. And I'm like, well, then you're just hiring chumps, because there's people that can do that and do that. He goes, so what we're doing now we're doing the comedy club. And they're in that same week, they flew on. It started with one guy. I came on halfway through the week. He got off. And then I got off, and another comic got on. And I did one night, 3 shows, half an hour, and he wanted me to repeat the half hour every show.
Okay, yeah.
Or if you're not going to repeat, don't tell him that, because there's so many people on the ship, we want them to be able to come back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. It's too easy. Like, I feel like I can do the time. Like, it's not my fault that I can do. So I should be able to stay on and make double pay and do a different show. But they're making it they're making it easy now for comics to do. All you got to do on that line is have a really funny, clean 30 that you do 3 times, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Of course. Who can't do that?
Most of them. Some of them.
No,
I shouldn't say most.
You got to do 2 on the Carnival.
Yeah.
You got to do 2 of those.
Well, I've been lucky enough to get away with 3 different adult shows and 1 family show. for 2 decades.
All right. Well, there you go. Then you could do this one too. But so I just I did different shows, but it's like it's weird how much it feels like comedy again. Like
Yeah.
I'm not obligated to do a different show, but I'm not obligated to do the same show. So
Correct.
I can mix it up and just have fun and write and blah blah blah. And it's only 30 minutes. Like instead of
Yeah.
And then the next ship I'm on, I'm doing 3 totally different theater shows that are all 45 minutes. Like what the fuck? I can't do that.
Yeah. Wah.
Give him his bottle.
Yes. Well, it's good seeing you again, man.
Always good to see you, Mr. Simmons. Thank you.
You got any questions for me?
Perfect. Nah, I'm kind of already there.
All right, good.
I think we're done.
Seth, you got any questions for the master of MCing, and now he's been
I
working
think
the
he's
shift for a
done.
long
He looks
time?
about tapped out. I'll let him get a smoke.
All right.
Yeah, the Nick team level has dropped to an all-time low.
Thanks.
So it's just funny. That was the first time I've ever been recorded, and I didn't do the woo. So anyhow, we won't do it.
What do you mean?
Yeah, my signature. Woo! Yeah, there we go.
Look into a camera and do that.
Which I don't know. Which one is it?
Oh, I got you.
Woo! Okay. There we go. That was
His signature.
the dumbest Tom in the room
Yes.
with Tom Simmons and
Do you
Chris
do
Wiles.
that when you're running around on the thing when you're celebrating?
Yeah, I try. Yeah, I try. I tried it. Yeah. It's really horrible how bad that bit has failed because I was so happy about it when I wrote it down because I thought it was so silly. I was literally laughing, trying to keep myself from, getting too loud. I was laughing so hard when I put it in the phone on while I was on the plane. 'cause
I
it
had one
had me
similar
tickled.
about the plane where they did the long pitch for the credit card, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey, American Airlines, your pilot sucked today. The landing was rough, but hey, he nailed the 7-minute credit card pitch. Like we should be able to do that as long as everybody's strapped down and forced to do commercials." I'm going to start jumping up and doing commercials. Hey, I got 4 shows this week at the Funny Bone in St. Louis. Come on to the show. I'm Tom Simmons. You can see my podcast, Dumbest Tom in the Room, blah, blah, blah. Oxygen mask will be dropping from the ceiling.
I'm thinking more from the other side where it's like, hey, look, bitch, I'm in a middle seat in the back of the plane. You think my credit's any good?
Yeah, no shit.
Anyhow, everyone take care, and whatever you celebrate this time of year, celebrate it. And tap buttholes.
See.